Hello, and welcome to another episode of Who Rescued Whom? Canine Rescue Tales. The story we have for you today is about Suzan and Mike, their love, her loss, and the perfect timing of a rescue dog that became a source of healing that no one saw coming.
Suzan met her soon-to-be husband Mike in California while he was serving in the United States Marine Corps as an air traffic controller. In 1991, Mike got out of the military and began working for the Federal Aviation Administration in Denver. They were married the following year.
Suzan has always loved dogs. Suzan and Mike had recently had to say goodbye to 2 dogs, so she began volunteering at the Retriever Rescue of Colorado to fill that void, and consequently adopted a 12-year-old dog named Faith. Later, while working at a special event for the rescue, Suzan was paired up with a dog named Boomer.
The reason they named him, his actual name was Boomerang, was that he had been rescued 4 times, but had the ability to jump a 6-foot wall, so he kept escaping. He was a runner, and so he would run away. So when I was done showing him, we left, and I was supposed to take him back to a kennel, and I called my husband, and I said, hey, would it be okay if I bring back this dog? And he said, sure. We lived on acreage at that time, and Boomer came there, and he was happy because he could run, and we didn't have to worry about him.
It was a good match, so they adopted him. As Mike worked many long shifts for Denver Air Traffic Control, and Suzan worked from home, isolated from neighbors, she and Boomer spent a lot of time together and grew close. Mike loved to fly himself and was a private pilot. Suzan and Mike owned a small airplane and combined their shared love of dogs and flying by volunteering for Pilots N Paws.
Pilots N Paws is a nonprofit organization that helps coordinate, through a volunteer network of private pilots who donate their time, fuel, and aircraft, to fly rescue animals throughout the country to or from rescues or adopting families. In November of 2016, they got an email about doing a rescue flight.
2016 was kind of one of those weird years. My dog Boomer started getting sick in June and progressively got worse, and he passed away. It was kind of rough because he was my dog. At that time, my husband was still working a lot. He was still flying part-time, and so I didn't see him a lot.
The email they received from Pilots N Paws was a request from Mountain Pet Rescue of Colorado, seeking a flight for 2 dogs to be picked up from Denton, Texas. The night before their flight, the rescue had provided pictures of the 2 dogs they would be transporting.
One of the dogs looked a lot like our dog Boomer. So we requested that we could take him and adopt him. And so the lady said, sure, why don't you bring him home and you can foster him first and then decide whether you want to adopt him.
And that's exactly what they did. Rescues don't always know a dog's name at the time it comes to them, so they will often give the dogs names in order to sort them. The dog they brought home came with the name Ravi, but Mike had always wanted to give a dog an aviation-type name.
So he started looking and found the name Rudder. A rudder is something that steers your airplane, and so it's like a dog steers your life, if you think about it that way.
In early December, Suzan began preparing for the holidays, and Rudder was excited because of all the different activity. They couldn't know the significance the name Rudder would have until one night when everything changed.
December 9th, my husband started not feeling so well, and he ended up staying in bed. And then on the 10th, he was still not feeling well. I wanted to take him to the doctors. He said no. He figured it was just a stomach flu or something. Anyway, so him being sick, I didn't want to sleep in the bed with him, so I had Rudder out in the living room with me, and I made a bed out on the couch. And just around midnight, Rudder barked, and it startled me awake because apparently I had fallen asleep. And I looked over, and he was sitting by the master bedroom door. I opened the door and found my husband laying, and he had passed away.
Mike had died suddenly of an unknown heart condition. Perhaps Rudder was brought into Suzan's life to fill this very unexpected void, so he could steer Suzan's life through grief, sadness, and loneliness. So he asked Suzan, who rescued whom?
Losing my husband was like one of the worst things in the world because I didn't have children. I lived farther away from most of my family. And so I had Rudder. What the amazing part was he actually helped me overcome some of the heartache, a lot of the heartache, because every day I'd have to go out and walk him. I'd get outside. I'd see people. I would talk to people. People would ask me about Rudder, and I would start taking him to dog parks. And so him being in my life was the biggest rescue I could think of rescuing me. Don't know how people say, but divine intervention, something had made us adopt Rudder at the time we did because somebody knew I would need him.
And God said, I will send them without wings, so no one suspects they are angels. A quote by an unknown author.
Rudder is special in many ways.
Rudder is actually very attached to me. He will walk with me off leash and stay with me. But when he hears me getting upset, or sometimes if I sit and cry, he will come over and put his head on my knee and just lay there and know. And all I can do is pet him. And as I pet him, I feel better. And so I think he actually understands that somehow. He has the empathy to sense me feeling bad or getting upset or hurting. And so he's very in tune with that. He'll always come over and bring me a toy. He'll bring me a toy like, hey, play with me, even though I might be crying or whatever. And so that always seems to make me feel better.
We often ask our guests if they have any favorite quotes about dogs.
So one of my favorite ones is one I got from Mountain Pet Rescue. She sent me a bookmarker and it said, you can't buy love, but you can rescue it. And then the other thing, which is kind of something I put together, was living in this world with all the strangeness going on. It's hard, especially if you don't have someone to love. And that someone could very well be just a furry friend.
The Who Rescued Whom Canine Rescue Tales podcast makes a donation to the rescue of choice in honor of the guests we feature on each episode.
Suzan would like this episode's donation to go to Mountain Pet Rescue in Grand County, Colorado. Mountain Pet Rescue is how Rudder's story with Suzan and Mike began.
Mountain Pet Rescue is a foster-based rescue that focuses on rescuing active, energetic mountain dogs by working with overcrowded shelters in and outside of Colorado. Their board of directors strives to match each dog with its perfect home by assessing its temperament, evaluating the potential foster and adoption homes, and following up with the pet owner to ensure a healthy and enjoyable relationship. We will post a link in our show notes in case you'd like to donate to Mountain Pet Rescue as well. It's been just over 4 years since Suzan lost Mike, and she still walks with Rudder every day. And recently, she added another furry friend to her home, Baeta, a Labrador Springer Pointer mix that she also adopted from Mountain Pet Rescue.
Dogs. There are so many anecdotal stories of dogs sensing danger or sadness in our lives, and then warning or comforting us. Science fiction author Dean Koontz describes his experiences with his dog named Trixie as a Theophany, a visible manifestation of a deity. Trixie had changed his life in so many positive ways. Was it fate, destiny, coincidence, or divine intervention that brought Rudder to Suzan and helped her cope with an unbelievable loss? It really doesn't matter why or how. Rudder just did. A dog did. One could be there for you in your time of need. So consider rescuing a dog and developing that unique bond. Dogs are truly a gift, a joy, and comfort to have in your life.
The Who Rescued Whom Canine Rescue Tales podcast is seeking sponsors and supporters. If you'd like to sponsor an episode, or several, please email us at info@whorescuedwhom.com. Or if you love our show and just wish to support us in creating more great content, please consider visiting buymeacoffee.com/whorescuedwhom, where you can support us by buying us a coffee or a Puppaccino. Each $3 cup of coffee or Puppaccino represents the 3+ million dogs that enter animal shelters every year here in the United States. This podcast was edited and produced by Mike McClellan at podcastps.com. Mike also wrote, performed, and produced all the original music that you heard on this episode.